Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Damascus Radio, and it's time for news for tonight, read by Khalid Saqbani and Basim Bagdash. President Bashar al-Assad issued today Presidential Decision number 18 for the year 2012 on forming a committee to carry out maintenance and rehabilitation works of the Great Umayyad Mosque in Aleppo. The committee is headed by Governor of Aleppo, Muhammad Wahid Aqad, and it consists of 7 members. The decision set December the 31st, 2013 as the deadline for completing the maintenance and rehabilitation works on. The Ministry of Religious Endowments, or Awqaf, had earlier said today that the attack on the Great Umayyad Mosque in Aleppo constitutes an attack on the sanctity of religion and a dangerous indicator in the life of the nation. In a statement, the ministry said that this attack is part of the continuing attacks on Islamic sanctities, according to a designed plan devised by Israel and the U.S. Similarly, the Levant Scholars Union denounced on behalf of Arab and Islamic world the attack perpetrated by Al-Qaeda on the Great Umayyad Mosque. Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has reiterated that dialogue and the achievement of national reconciliation in Syria are the basic means for reaching a solution for the events taking place in the country. Meeting UN Special Envoy to Syria, Lakhdar Ibrahimi, on Sunday, President Ahmadinejad warned that attempts to undermine Syria and dismember it would lead to instability and insecurity in the whole region for decades, calling for the importance that all parties acknowledge the Syrian people's rights of freedom and national sovereignty. On some parties' claims of keenness on the Syrian people, President Ahmadinejad said, "Those who feel pity for the Syrians should insist on preparing convenient conditions for national reconciliation and bringing peace and security to Syria." The Iranian president underlined the necessity that all parties should work on achieving national accord in Syria without imposing their viewpoints on the Syrians. On his part, Ibrahimi stressed the importance of bringing national accord in the country to maintain unity and sovereignty and restore security, referring to the different viewpoints and stances of the armed and non-armed opposition in Syria. The Iranian presidency website mentioned that Ibrahimi presented a report on the procedures to be taken regarding the situation in Syria. Meanwhile, Ahmed Fawzi, spokesman for the UN envoy Lakhdar Ibrahimi, dismissed today that Ibrahimi is setting a plan to deploy an international peacekeeping force in Syria, as the Sunday Telegraph reported earlier. Answering a question on the credibility of a report published by the newspaper on Sunday, Fawzi said the report is baseless. The Sunday Telegraph had earlier alleged that Ibrahimi is discussing the possibility of involving the UNIFIL forces operating in South Lebanon, which include Ireland, Germany, France, Spain, and Italy in the aforementioned force. Khalid?
Thank you, Basim. A military unit today destroyed 4 cars that were being used to transport the terrorists, their weapons, and their ammunition. They also destroyed a car equipped with a machine gun, killing a number of terrorists in the Bab Hadid area of Aleppo city. In Damascus's countryside, a unit of the armed forces dismantled a number of explosive devices that were planted by the armed terrorist groups on the roads in the eastern Ghouta, which is in the Damascus countryside. Another armed forces unit eliminated tens of terrorists and destroyed 5 cars that they were using in the town of El Shayfounieh, which is in the eastern part of the Ghouta area in Damascus's countryside. In Hamas, units of the armed forces, in cooperation with the authorities, dismantled 2 explosive devices which were planted by terrorist groups near the villages on the Hamas-Masyaf highway. A source in the province told the news reporters that the devices weighed 25 kilograms each. The authorities also dismantled 5 explosive devices in the same area on Sunday. In Hama, the army units carried out qualitative operations against the terrorists near the Tel Maleh crossroad in the Mharde area of Hama, killing 3 of them. And in Deir ez-Zor, the unit of the armed forces stormed a terrorist hideout in the Jabalia neighborhood, which is in Deir ez-Zor, and eliminated all the terrorists inside it. The Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources discussed yesterday with heads of the petroleum workers' trade unions means of increasing the maintaining production and dealing with the difficulties facing the workers. The discussions focused on the workers' demands and the difficulties hindering their work, in addition to the issues related to the equipment maintenance, increasing the workers' compensation, extending contracts, exchanging technical expertise, and increasing the fuel allocations for some provinces. The minister also noted that the petroleum sector was targeted heavily by terrorists due to the importance of this sector to the national economy, and it was also targeted by the European and Western sanctions, and the ministry is trying to overcome these sanctions. The Minister of Health, Dr. Saeed Nayef, discussed yesterday with the head of the International Committee of the Red Cross delegation in Syria the health situation in the country and the requirements that ensure the sustained health services as well as the cooperation mechanisms between the two sides, especially in providing special medication and medical equipment to some areas. The minister said that the ministry will continue to offer all services for all the citizens, and it will distribute them over all the provinces. He pointed out that the ministry needs certain medical equipment for the health centers and institutions which the ministry is working to rehabilitate after being targeted by the armed terrorist groups. On her part, the head of the Red Cross delegation held the Syrian cooperation, which helped ease the transportation and importing of the medication and equipment and the aids that will be arriving as soon as possible, stressing that the committee will continue its support for the health sector. She said that the committee will focus its efforts in the phases of evaluating the humanitarian situation and backing the areas and the provinces that received big numbers of citizens. Back to you, Bassem.
Thank you, Khaled. Deputy Prime Minister for Services Affairs, Minister of Local Administration, Omar Ghalawanji, said that 1 billion Syrian pounds has been allocated to the building committee established on September the 23rd to compensate for the damages caused to the uninsured private properties affected by terrorism in the year 2012. During the first meeting of the committee on Sunday, Ghalawanji, who chaired the committee, said that half of the money will come from the budget of the local administration ministry and the other half from the state general budget, adding that 30 billion Syrian pounds have been allocated to the committee and will become available to it by the year 2013. Ghalawanji reviewed the committee task, which includes setting basis and criteria for compensating damages, taking necessary steps for rehabilitating the damaged infrastructure and utilities, and providing humanitarian relief to the affected citizens. He pointed out that his ministry requested the subcommittees in the provinces to finish documenting actual damage to private properties and put the data in charts within a week, adding that the issues of raising the values and the cap of compensations and finding mechanisms for compensating the owners of the vehicles damaged by terrorism are being discussed. Ghalawanji called for presenting accurate reports on repairs that have been completed and their costs, noting that no repairs should be made in hot spots or unsafe areas until they are fully cleared of terrorists. The Syrian community in Lebanon organized a mass rally yesterday in solidarity with Syria in the face of terrorism and the U.S., Israeli, Western and Arab campaign against it. A number of Lebanese figures and representatives of the national powers and parties took part in the rally. The participants expressed rejection of the foreign interference in Syria's internal affairs, hailing the sacrifices of the Syrian army to defend Syria and its people, and to cleanse the homeland from the armed terrorist groups which tampered with its security and stability. They expressed appreciations for the Russian and Chinese stances in supporting Syria against the flagrant conspiracy targeting it, noting that the stances of the two countries reflect commitment to the UN Charter in regard to respecting the sovereignty of the countries. Meanwhile, the Syrian students in Slovakia have thanked Russia for its principled and balanced stance toward Syria in the face of the U.S. Zionist conspiracy hatched against it, which aims at undermining its national and pan-Arab stances. Visiting the Russian embassy in Bratislava, the National Union of Syrian Students branch delegation sent a letter of gratitude to Russia and the Russian people for their support to solve the crisis in Syria on the basis of comprehensive national dialogue and the reform process launched by the Syrian leadership. Back to you, Khalid.
Thank you, Basim. The state of insecurity and political insecurity continues in Tunisia as the city of Qafsa is witnessing clashes between the pro and anti-government demonstrators. The France press agency said that upon a call by the Popular Front of the leftist parties coalition, more than 1,000 protesters gathered in the Qafsa city calling for more work and development for the neglected areas. Following that, around 300 protesters in front of the Qafsa City Council in support of the government held clashes with the other protesters, and water bottles and stones were thrown between the two sides. Tunisia has witnessed an increase in demonstrations since the beginning of last summer, particularly in the internal regions, which are condensing the protests in the countries and have the highest rate of unemployment. The spiritual leader of the Islamic Revolution in Iran, Ali Khamenei, has stressed that the Iranian people, in spite of all the conspiracies and the threats of sanctions, have been able to achieve big successes, which took part in Iran's development and its progress at all levels. Khamenei said that Iran's enemies wanted to hit the political stability of the country through a number of issues and conspiracies since the beginning of the revolution, but they failed to achieve their goals. Back to you, Basim.
Thank you very much, Khalid. And also back to the Iranian file. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has severely criticized some sides who do not want to concentrate their efforts to find a diplomatic solution for the Iranian nuclear file, and instead they get involved in promoting hysterical rumors about a probable war between Iran and Israel. In a statement in Luxembourg, Lavrov warned that the eruption of a war between Iran and Israel would be the shortest way for undermining all efforts to find a solution for the outstanding issues regarding Iran's nuclear program through diplomatic means. Moreover, Lavrov stressed the necessity of encouraging dialogue mainly between Iran and the International Atomic Energy Agency. And now over to the final item, ladies and gentlemen, that says 6 Pakistani policemen were killed in an attack launched by more than 100 militants on a police station northwest of Pakistan last night. The Associated Press quoted Ashrat Yar, a Pakistani police officer, as saying today that the armed men have attacked the police center in Matni town near Peshawar city. The attack led to the eruption of clashes between the two sides for several hours and resulted in killing 6 policemen and injuring 12 others. The Pakistani police officer pointed out that the militants had burned the police center and 4 of its vehicles before they ran away. Earlier, 15 people at least had been killed and 30 others had been injured in a suicidal explosion which targeted the day before yesterday a market in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province northwest of Pakistan.
With this, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of our news bulletin for tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Damascus Radio presents News and Views.
Good evening, dear listeners, to all of you. The Neo-Crusaders have expanded and sealed up in all directions enlargement. The aim remains unchanged to besiege the Levant from Euphrates, Al-Sham, which includes Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine. According to historians, the ultimate purpose of the New Crusaders is to foment a state of intra-conflict and internal dismemberment. In its assault, the colonialist powers excel in deploying high-tech, which they abuse as luring bribe for enticement. The means to tempt in are diversified, ranging from glossy, fabulous, and thick book to similarly thin, cylindrical death tools. Testifying thereto, an American journalist, Michael Dawson, reveals the deployment in abundance of sophisticated kill devices are never therapeutic surgery, many operations at all. But who has the dare and will to face up and nourish man's culture and moral principles? Only their crusaders do. Fresh studies at the Norwegian University for Sciences and Technology indicate that patriarchy and maternity do ward off much of health hazards and pregnancy fetus malice, starting from acute heart diseases onward. The researchers beseech the born-in-weight parents to care for the injured, at which month on will burn he or she. Comments on the find supportively say, catering for our own cultural build-up is not a hired job nor voluntary. It is must, for the duty is never a second-hand dress to put on sale. All this sound melodic, though sublimation and supplication do not go free nowadays under havoc of neo-crusading and recolonization. One outcome is spare time seeps away. As result, the objective seems mission impossible. To a run of events, the Neo-Crusaders, led by the Zionist chieftains, let slip off mind the ethical high moral structure of the composition of patriotism and heritage. The unleavened back in the historian's memory, these components do exactly as they did beforehand, time and again. Topple and tussle the balances and all their phony equilibriums that prevailed in mono, bi, or trinity patrite world. In sequence, new balances are just at work to restore to the world its characters, as designed and done divinely. And the bedeviled cosmos warfare on mankind is gloomed and doomed. Early signs single this ill fate right now.
That was news and views from Damascus Radio. Damascus Radio presents Syrian Local Press Review.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Titles focus on the Syrian issue. They read, Iran's foreign minister marks the necessity of terminating the crisis by peaceful means. Lavrov, Russia's foreign minister, reiterates his demand to the Western states to commit themselves to the Geneva Statement. In context, the front pages highlight the UN peace envoy is quoted readiness to render aid in the course of development. Also, on the front pages, focus is made on the developments in Syria's cities and suburbs. Photos show the scale of havoc on a Damascus highway caused by a terrorist blast. On these pictures, the papers carry. Town in Damascus suburbs have been purged, scores of terrorists are killed, tens of machine gun vehicles have been destroyed in addition to destroying anti-air rockets. Prominence goes to a special resolution draft approved by the People's Assembly on vital safety of living components and their products. Its aim is to guarantee safe level for the health of man, plant and environment. Another local topic is a statement by the Deputy Prime Minister for Services and Local Affairs Administration, Engineer Omar Ghalawinji. The statement allocates 1 billion liras for the present year and 30 billion liras for the year 2013. The aim is to subtitle the damages caused to civil properties by terrorist acts. In related subject, the front pages highlight a decree issued by the Prime Minister Dr. Wa'il al-Halqi. It provides payment of the state workers on the 23rd of this month. The Prime Minister decree includes all retired civilians. They will be paid on the 20th of October. The front pages give prominence to Lebanese Foreign and Expatriates Minister. He stresses keen stand on security and stability of Syria. He adds that developments could reach Lebanon and others. The cardinal subject deals with the Zionist terror in Gaza. Photos show a Palestinian crying on a dead body murdered by the Zionist occupation troops and their settlers' backers. Titles read, "The Zionist terrorist occupation steps up its murder in the occupied Palestinian territories." In a new Zionist raid, 2 Palestinian strugglers, civilians, are martyred. A large number of other Palestinians are arrested by the Zionist occupation troops. Meanwhile, the Zionist occupation army continues invasion of the southern Lebanese mountains. At the same time, Lebanese official sources say hostile Zionist air continues its violations of Lebanon. On Tunis, the paper quote Human Rights Watch as condemning the political arrest law issued in Tunis violates the international levels.
That was a review of the Syrian local press issued in Damascus this morning.
Radio Damascus presents Listeners Overseas. Prepared and presented by Randa Qaddura. Sound technician Hamdi Shweki. Archaeological excavations in the Middle Euphrates civilization. Archaeological excavations in the Middle Euphrates civilization revealed that the earthenware industry has originated there since the 6th millennium BC. Researcher Yasser Chouhan said that the earthenware containers were made in 3 sizes: Small, used especially to preserve medicine and perfumes. Medium, used for cooking, and large for food and cereals storage. Chauhan added that decorations on earthenware containers were used since the 4th millennium BC, including drawings of human birds, fish, and reptiles, as well as geometrical shapes with black and red as the dominating colors in painting earthenware containers. Director of Culture in Deir Zor, Abdul Qadir Salama, said the earthenware industry is a deep-rooted craft in the province and is part and parcel of its cultural and traditional heritage, adding that the industry has receded as modern containers have made inroads into modern life. The earthenware industry is one of the oldest traditions in Deir Zor, reflecting the dexterity and taste of its maker. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to the weekly program Listeners Overseas. If you have any comments or any suggestions, please don't hesitate to write it on the following address: Syrian Arab Republic, English Section. Post Office Box number is 4702, Damascus, Syria. Dear listeners and dear friends, greetings from our sound technician Hamdi Shweki and also from me, Randa Qadura. Wish you to have a real happy time. Bye-bye to all of you.